Hello folks and welcome to the OceanState Cuisine. For today's recipe, we're going to be going over one of the favorites when it comes to seafood dishes. We're going to be cooking Alaskan King Crab Leg and also lobster tails. Now for today's recipe, I'm only cooking one Alaskan King Crab Leg, but this is a pretty nice sized leg, and then along with the lobster tails. The crab legs at this time are very, very expensive. This one leg cost me $26. And then with this we have a can of light beer. I like using light beer for today's recipe. We got some fresh lemon, and then we have some butter. The other products I will be using and seasonings I will show you throughout the course of today's video. So with that being said, let's get started. Now after washing our seafood, getting it ready, we're going to start prepping it. And the main thing I want to do here is that I want to make some slits. I want to cut some slits in the shell so that the stock that we're going to be steaming this in or boiling this in is actually going to be able to reach the meat inside. It's going to give it wonderful flavors. You just got to be very careful doing this. If you feel uncomfortable doing this step, you could skip it. But I feel one of the safest tools to use here is a heavy cooking shear, which is like a heavy duty scissor. And the shell on king crab legs are rather soft, so you could just get the point of the shear, stick it through to start your cut. Now if you notice, I'm not making cuts all the way. You don't have to do that. We just want to expose some of that meat in the cooking process. Because actually the method I'm going to be using to cook these today, as we're going to see in just a few minutes, is that they're not actually being boiled and they're not actually being steamed. It's a combination of both. Most of the times I don't like to boil a lot of my seafood because the end result could be kind of mushy, it loses a lot of its flavors and things along that nature. Now with the lobster tail, what I'm going to do is with the same cutting shear, I'm just going to start off on the top. I know I'm not getting good angles here with the camera. I apologize about that. But I'm going down both the top and the bottom of the shell. And with these scissors, it makes it really easy. So we're just going to make an incision just like that. And then the same on the top of the shell. Now the top of the shell is the hardest part of the shell. But with these cooking shears, it's a breeze. Now some people will butterfly the meat by pulling it out of the slit to expose the meat while it's cooking. I'm leaving mine inside the shell. And for this segment right here, I just sped it up a bit by editing. Now in a decent sized pot, I started off by melting down some butter. As we know, butter and shellfish is like a marriage. And then next I'm going to add some minced garlic to this. Garlic along with butter sounds like a perfect match to me when it comes to shellfish. And I'm probably using about 2.5 to 3 heaping teaspoons of minced garlic. And for these stove shots right here, I really need a taller tripod for my camera. And then next I'm going to add some onion to this. Now I just cut this up in like 4 sections and I just put it in there with pretty large pieces because you don't need to dice this up for today's recipe. And then we just want this to simmer for a couple of minutes. Have those oils release from the onion and the garlic. Yeah, this is really good. And then give it a stir or two. Mix it around a bit. And we're good to go right there. And I'm cooking this all on about medium heat. Now you may have to adjust the meat or give it some time because as we know, every time we add something new to the pot, it's going to cool it down. And now I'm just going to hit it with some black pepper and a little bit of salt. I'm not using a lot of salt in today's recipe because this came out of the ocean. Plus, we're not using any plain water at all. Like I said earlier, water has the tendency to kind of suck out some of those flavors while it's cooking. So I'm using a can of beer instead, and plus beer adds excellent flavors to shellfish. And that's the only amount of moisture I'm using is what we see right here. Just that 1 can of beer and a little bit of melted butter. So now you can see that this isn't really considered boiled. It's more of steamed because most of the shellfish is going to be sticking out of the liquid. But I also want the shellfish to come in contact with all this to get all those great flavors. So that's the reason why I'm not using a basket. And I just want to say too, if people are concerned about the alcohol content, that gets cooked out as soon as you add the beer. Now we're going to add one of my favorite seasonings when it comes to seafood, and that's Old Bay seasoning. And I'm adding a good amount of this to the stock. Now, if you don't have this on hand, you could use another popular one for a dish like this is Cajun seasoning, any kind of a good blend that you like. A garlic blend, anything like that would be excellent in a dish like this. Now on medium heat, I'm going to add a lid to the pot, and this is going to bring it up a bit temperature wise, so when we add the shellfish it doesn't cool down too fast. So now once we could actually see past the steam here, we're going to see that's about the boil that I'm looking for right there, a nice soft boil. That's pretty much a perfect looking temperature right there, because again, it's going to calm down a bit once we add the shellfish. Now first I'm adding the king crab leg because that's the longest part of this meal. So I want to be able to make sure that it fits in the base of the pan, and then the lobster tails. Now all the slits that we made in the shell does not have to be soaking in this liquid, because as it steams you'll be amazed on how the flavors actually get inside. So as we see right here, we could see that the whole product is not submerged in the liquid. Most of it's sticking out, so it's basically getting steamed. And then I put the lid on and I just shake it around lightly a little bit to get all that liquid, get everything kind of mixed up, you know? Just like that. And then I'm just going to put the lid back on for now. But then I decided I wanted to add a little more pepper to the actual shellfish. And just another pinch, very lightly pinch, of salt. When I make these videos, I actually add my voice and all that when I edit the video, which is days later. Of course, I eat the meal as soon as I make it. So I could tell you ahead of time already, because I already ate this, that it was not salty at all. So now I'm going to put the lid back on, and I got it on about almost medium-high heat right now. So we're going to wait a couple of minutes and see how it starts to steam or boil. And then we'll adjust our temperature from there. The total simmer time for this is going to be about 7 to 8 minutes. And then what I'm going to do also is I want to turn these over so that the top pot now is at the bottom, which is now in the liquid. This way it's cooking more evenly. Alaskan king crab legs are actually cooked either out at sea on the boat, or once they dock up, they cook them at the processing plant. The reason for this is to preserve the goodness, the flavor, and the freshness of the seafood. Where on the other hand, the lobster tails are totally raw. But the cooking time is perfect, so you could cook both of them at the same time. Now when they also pre-cook these out at sea or at the processing plant, after that they put it in a flash freezer. A flash freezer is made to freeze things quickly, and it preserves the freshness. So sometimes when you go to buy your crab legs, they may be frozen. You want to make sure that they're thawed out before you actually start cooking them. The reason for this is that if you do cook them frozen, the meat could come out rubbery, and also make it a bit tough. And that's the nice redness that we're looking for on the shell. And then you want to make sure that the meat is nice and white and solid looking. You don't want it to be translucent. And now all that's left now is to remove it from the stock and plate it up. And again, the whole cooking process for the shellfish was about 7 to 8 minutes. And then if you look back to the back burner there, I got a small pan melting down some butter. Or you could actually use the stock that we made, because that's an excellent tasting stock right there. And looky there, folks. Boy, does that look good. I know one thing, it tasted awesome. I also got some of the stock and I poured it on top of the shellfish. Man, was this thing good. And then we also served it with some fresh wedges of lemon. And this stock being so good, you could just use that without the melted butter, but I also melted down some butter also, called drawn butter. Actually, folks, we're going to have to throw this away. See, it's not cooked all the way. See how it's translucent looking? I'm only joking. That's the shell. It's got like a clear membrane of a shell on it, and that's what's giving it that glow or that reflection. But if we look to the left where the big knuckle part of the meat is, it's nice and pure white. That's the way you want it to look. And also remember, guys, again, these are pre-cooked. All we're basically doing with the Alaskan King Crab Legs is just reheating them. And that's basically it, folks. There we go. There's our Alaskan King Crab Leg and our lobster tails. Cooked again to perfection. Try this at home. I think you'll really enjoy it. So thank you again for stopping by and checking out the OceanState Cuisine. Feel free to sub up. It helps support the channel. And then also comment down below, because we love to hear from you. And until the next time, you guys have yourself a wonderful day. Take care. Bye-bye.